All right, so President or former President Donald Trump held his first official rally of his 2024 campaign. He stopped at a couple of places, but this was kind of a big one. It was in Waco, Texas, which is about an hour south of Dallas. He had, there were a few thousand people there, but some of them looked disinterested in some of what he was saying, especially when he decided to attack Ron DeSantis. We will link that below, but he was talking about how DeSantis was begging Trump for his endorsement. Please, sir, please. He was like that and all that. And the crowd behind him, like you would think, like usually when Trump attacks someone, like he attacks Pence or he attacks a Democrat, they're all fired up, like, yeah, go get him. The crowd looked disinterested. Why do you think that was, Thomas?
Well, okay, first of all, if we were going to talk about begging for endorsements, I bet anyone would want the endorsement of the then president of the United States. So, like, of course, and Ron DeSantis was also one of his allies in Congress. So, and then, it's Trump's really just all mad at Ron just because Trump thinks that you have to be loyal to him, even if you don't actually have to. And Trump thinks he's entitled to the nomination, and he's not. And when he was praising Charlie Crist, who is a Democrat who lost by 20 points in the state of Florida, what? Then remember when he did this back in Georgia, he was like, "Oh, Stacey Abrams is going to be a better governor than Brian Kemp." Everyone was like, "What?"
Yeah, it's not about because Charlie Crist, if you actually look way back when I was looking back when the Florida election last year was happening, Charlie Crist and Donald Trump were friends 15 years ago. So it's not really about do you agree with me politically? It's about how loyal are you to me. Charlie Crist, why would he attack Donald Trump? He was running against Ron DeSantis. So if he came out and said something about Trump, Trump will be like, "Oh, Charlie Crist, I always hated Charlie Crist. He was such a terrible person." It doesn't matter what it was like before. So it's all about, he even says it himself. I think loyalty is a big thing. So if you're a Republican voter, that's what you got to look at. What do you prefer? Do you prefer loyalty or do you prefer DeSantis in office? I'll let you guys make that decision. But the crowd was just lacking interest. Like there was these, I think they were like college age kids. I think one had a Baylor, shirt, which of course is in Waco, Texas. And they just looked disinterested. They looked almost awkward. Like they were like, when he was talking about DeSantis, they were like turning away, talking to each other. Nobody was cheering. They were just looking straight dead on. So this was really interesting. Trump, the whole rally, like I watched one from like Minnesota in 2019, and I watched one. It's a whole different world, isn't it, Tom? You've been to Trump rallies, right? Did that look like a Trump rally? Like,
no. Pretty much all this Trump rallies, in my opinion, really died once, the day before the Georgia runoffs, when he just basically told people not to vote or they're gonna rig it or whatever.
yeah.
So yeah.
No, that's a really good point because they've always been like, we're gonna win big. And then the Georgia runoff comes, and we're talking about back in 2021, right before Biden took office by 2 weeks. And obviously that was historic for a lot of reasons. But the Georgia runoff came and Trump comes down. It's going to be a big rally. We're going to win. It's more of just, well, I got this stolen from me. These guys will probably get this stolen from me. It's like, yeah. And it's like, wait, what? Are we supposed to vote now? Or like, what's supposed to happen? Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, and if you obviously look through the statistics and the voting data, the most people that didn't turn out for the election were the white rural Republicans, mainly in Doug Collins and Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. And if you look at the statistics from this runoff to the next one in 2022, if Loeffler had gotten Walker's rural margin, she would have won. And if Walker got the margins in Atlanta that Loeffler did, he would have won.
No, Walker ran a tough. He had everything slung
I think he got really what he needed in the rules, but he didn't hit what his performance in the metros is what killed him.
If he was facing Ossoff, I think it might have been a little different.
I think here's the thing: in Georgia, you could win it as a Republican. Like you don't need Cobb or Gwinnett County anymore, but you can't get blown out in them. Like if you get, you could probably lose both of them by 10 points respectively. And if you do good in everything else, you could probably win by like a point or two. But if you want to truly win by a good margin, probably lose Cobb by a couple of points.
Yeah, Georgia is definitely a state that I think definitely the Republicans are going to have to look at. It's like, this just went really bad the last 2 years. How are we going to get it back? And that's kind of the thing. Do you see, just to get back to DeSantis a little bit, do you see MAGA still liking him, not liking him? Where do you think MAGA is at with him right now? Especially after seeing that reaction that they didn't react much when he was bashing him.
I mean, it depends what MAGA you're talking about, in my opinion.
Yes.
There's going to be always those loyal MAGA people that are going to go, oh, Trump's always right. He's a god. And it's like, what? Like, I've talked to so many people who, like, pretty much compared Trump to, like, Jesus or something. And these are the same conservatives who are, Catholic or Christian. I'm like, you also know it's a sin to idolize someone.
Yeah.
Like Trump. So
some of that might just be words of words, but some of it is like literal. So it's something.
There's some of the MAGA people who are like, yeah, I like DeSantis. He's a good governor, and it's like, it's not all of them because a lot of them still think he's good, and even some of the MAGA people voted for Kemp, in Georgia. So
I think an important distinction is there's two sides of MAGA, right? MAGA was a movement. Like MAGA, when it first, it's a movement. It's not really like, well, now it is about Trump, but like when it first started, we're talking about 2016, it's corruption. Washington is screwing you. We're going to fix this. And DeSantis yes, he was a congressman for a couple of years, but I wouldn't call him the swamp. I mean, you would want some guy with some experience in there, right? But so DeSantis kind of idolizes a little bit of that. Like he idolizes that. Yes, he was in Washington, but he takes on it matters what you take on too. It doesn't matter who you are. It matters who you are, but that's not all that matters. It matters who you take on too. And DeSantis, whether you agree with him or not, that could be up to your position. He took on Disney. He took on school boards. He's taken on a lot of things. Whether you guys think that's good, you guys can decide that at the voter box. But he has. So that kind of, and Trump guys, like the media guys, you got like Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, all those, they're always going to be Trump guys. They'll love Trump to forever. But the voter is what decides the elections, which is the interesting part. And I think they prefer Trump. I still think that the polls clearly show that. But let's see what happens in a year. DeSantis isn't even a declared candidate. Right. Let's see what happens. They may prefer Trump right now, but that could switch. They like both. If they decide they like DeSantis more, that's ball game, So I think it's still out. There's still a shot out there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, Ron hasn't even announced it. And there's a new poll that just came out today in Quinnipiac that DeSantis is only down by 14 against Trump. So, and then obviously the other people that haven't even declared. And, at this time in 2007, Rudy Giuliani was going to be the nominee.
Yeah. I don't know if I wasn't DeSantis or Trump, just hypothetically, and I'm entering the primary. What I would do first is DeSantis is clear number 2. So you go after him the first 2 debates, and then you immediately shift to Trump. Right. But I feel like all the Pence and all them, I don't see them attacking in the way that they would need to get back. So right now, I still think it's a 2-horse race. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think all they have to do is just drop out before the primary, like the big primaries happen, and just I think that would be hurting Trump because, I mean, no one is a never Trumper in the Republican Party anymore. They're just, I don't want them to do it again.
Yeah. Chris Sununu actually said governor of New Hampshire actually said exactly what you said. Like he said, listen, I respect everyone, I'm going to support the nominee, even if it's Trump. That's his opinion. You guys can decide if that's your opinion or not. I'm going to support the nominee, he said we have to get out. If you're polling nothing, you have to get out. And he may be a candidate, so he might have to understand that too. But yeah, feel free. The more candidates, the better. Go join the debates. But once it comes primary, if you're pulling at 2%, you kind of got to do the math,